Wherever you are, welcome to another of my takes on China. And Alvin Nong asked a good question a couple of weeks ago, but with my recent travels and other commitments, I haven't really had much time to respond in a video, although I did respond to the question. So, welcome to another of my takes on China from a rest day in the Henan city of Zhengzhou, where I'll be here for a couple of days. Alvin asked me this. Hi, Jerry, he said. One argument that I'm hearing from US media is that China is unfair in its trade practices. That is why many countries have grievances filed against China. Is there any truth to this? My response is simple. No, there is not any truth to this. However, the accusations are very strong, and as with all accusations, it's often a case of pointing the finger at China to deflect from the reality at home. Given all that we're seeing in media right now and all the allegations flying out of the White House about China violating agreements, it's probably a good time to put this one right. So here's some facts. First of all, China hasn't violated any agreements out of the Swiss meeting a few days ago that they had with the USA. Rare earth extracts are what's not being mentioned because it would cause a panic in the weapons industry and the people who are invested in it. If I were investing in US weapons industry, I'd get my money out of there really fast. This is not investment advice, just my opinion. It's going downhill soon, and that's what's making the White House panic. Rare earth extracts are almost 100% sourced in China. China has written a law to restrict them to license holders, and that means weapons manufacturers won't be getting them anymore. There's not only a law, but China has introduced a stricter control setup with a department to reduce instances of smuggling and false applications. So it's basically made these important elements only available for peaceful purposes. No wonder Trump, the White House, and the US industries are panicking. China does have trade disputes, of course. These are normal. They're often business to business, not government to government. Australia in particular epitomizes this because during COVID, China stopped taking their coal, their wine, and their lobsters. Australia's media accused China of unfair practices, and again, it wasn't true. Media lied to the public, and I think that was quite deliberate too. Coal was, and it's been proven by Andrew Wilkie, one of their politicians, who tabled the truth in Parliament, too dirty. They were selling coal that had a test report of a certain grade, and when analysed in China was found to be a different, inferior grade. The media never told us about this, and the truth didn't come out until well after the events, where China were wrongly portrayed as aggressive. Lobsters were coming into China without the correct paperwork to demonstrate that they are lead-free. Now, lead in shellfish and crustaceans is a very big problem. If the lobsters are farmed or harvested in a region such as Whyalla in South Australia, where there is a very large lead smelter, there may be lead in the water. So lobsters entering China need to be certified lead-free, and Australia wasn't doing that. Again, this didn't come out until after the matter was resolved. Everyone just accused China of being harsh, when in fact, China was protecting the investments and the people who consume the products. Another one was wine. Under World Trade Organization regulations, wine, like anything else, can't be exported at different prices to what they're sold locally. Some wines were coming into China and they were absolute trash being dumped by the wine industry onto an immature market in China. Others were high-quality brands such as Penfolds Grange, which was being sold to wealthy Chinese at about 3 times the market price. In other words, the Australians were ripping off both ends of the market. And China is very strict on what is imported. It takes years to get certification to import food or livestock. But once the certification is achieved, China is a lucrative market. It's also a highly protective market, though. It applies the rules stringently and adheres to contracts. Of course, this is not to say there aren't some Chinese business people who can't be trusted. That's the same everywhere. And if you apply normal due diligence to deal with China, you'll get great business. You'll have trusted long-term cooperation. Now, if you need evidence of this, go to any one of the 8,169 US corporations that operate in China and check out their annual reports. As far as I know, there are 140 US Fortune 500 companies, and all of them operate in China. These people know the environment, they know where they operate, and if it was a hostile environment, they wouldn't work here or invest so heavily. Their annual reports almost completely report that China is their largest business market. It's the one place that most of them are predicting greater investment, greater involvement. Even Apple, which has indeed moved a lot of stuff out of China for enhanced savings, is not moving everything out. And despite what media says about it, it's planning on more investments in China. Tim Cook of Apple is often here, and he admits it's their most important market, not just in terms of sales, phone sales, which are declining but are still huge, but also in terms of systems and app designs. This was reported as recently as this week. In March of this year, over 40 leading US business investors were here, meeting with Xi Jinping, attending conferences in Hainan Island, Guangzhou, Beijing, and Shanghai. These people won't come if the investment climate isn't good. The Canton Fair had record numbers of international businesses attending. Many orders were made there. If China was a hostile place to do business, there would not be so many people and so many countries willing to do that business. China is the leading partner of about 140 countries in the world. It's the second biggest trading partner of the European Union. It's the largest trading partner of ASEAN, and it's the largest of the Eurasian Economic Union. It's a strategic partner of many. It's enhanced cooperation with many. It has free trade agreements with many. Why wouldn't companies and countries want to do business with China? China's provided debt relief and restructuring to the developing world so that, in many cases, that they can't all be listed in one video. The myth of the debt trap is exactly that, a myth. In fact, let me correct it. It's not a myth at all. It's true of the West, in particular France, Britain, and the US, all countries that have exploited underdeveloped nations and trapped them with debt. What we read in the media and what business leaders read in their privately commissioned reports are very different things. If you focus only on Western media, you'll only hear or see isolated tales of individual problems. If you read academic business and even personal reports, some written by myself for international businesses, you will find the realistic picture. Like any country where you do business, there's going to be cultural, interpretational, and personal differences. But legal and contractual protections in China are very strong. Now, I think that will answer the question that many people who focus on media have. But the people who know and the people who need to know don't focus on media. They find out for themselves by specifically commissioning reports from people that they trust. Thanks once again for watching my take on China, and I'll see you again probably quite soon from on the road somewhere. Bye for now.